So thank you everyone for joining this webinar. So I'm pretty excited to have this conversation today because before we start, we are having this conversation. I already had much of the discussion with Ashok already, and it basically helped me to think be the helped me to change the perception I was having about the software development, and it has helped me to change the way I think uh, how should we approach towards the product development. And I think after you understand or you listen to these thoughts, that will help you to change yours as well. And it whatever the changes I'm talking about, they are in a very good way. Uh, and uh, that with that you will be able to appreciate the beauty of Agile as well. So that is what I'm taking the guarantee of this session. So welcome, Ashok, for this
Thank you.
conversation. Having you again is a pleasure all the time, actually. So 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 with that, I will talk about a simple question, which is about the quality itself. So when we think about the quality, then different people may be having the different perceptions about the quality. So a tester may be just focusing about fixing the bugs. Uh, the developer may be having some ideas about the inner quality of the software code actually that he's creating. The user may be having an entirely different perception. So different people may be having different ideas what quality is all about. But when it goes to actually the user, then I mean, you find there are a lot of surprises all in that session. So with that, actually, I just want to understand what is the holistic understanding of the quality you feel in your views.
Sure. So first, thanks for having me here again. And quality is one of the areas which is my, I would say, favorite area. And that's one thing I always try to implement wherever I go in all the industries and all the companies. So when we think about the quality, a lot of people always think that quality is something that is something that you can outsource. Typical standard definition of the quality is like you write the code, you give it to the testers, and the tester is going to go and find defects. And when they go and fix the defects, now you have a quality product available, ship it to the customer, and it's working. So this is very, I would say, old definition of quality, or is a very lopsided definition of quality. It's not the right definition. So when you talk about the quality, think like that four people trying to figure out an elephant. So this is just one of them trying to figure it out what the quality is, right? So you have to really figure out the elephant. And if you have to figure out the element, you have to look the holistic picture. So the only way you can look at the holistic picture, if you look from a distance and take care of all the elements that are available, and that could be the factor that is influencing your quality. So when we talk about the quality is not just the quality in testing. That's of course a very important part, but the quality is how you think about a product, how you approach your product, how you think about your customers, how you bake in all those things while you're developing, and then how you ultimately go and test it out, and then finally deliver to the customer. And if you, so the question that you're going to say is like, okay, if I'm developing a software, say I've got 20 features, and I'll take 5 months to deliver 20 features in 5 months and give it to I test it out, it works fine, and I give it to my customer. Is it a quality product? It has 0 bugs, everything is working fine. No, it's not a quality product. The reason it's not a quality product, because some of those yardsticks of the quality that will really make it, the way I describe quality is like something that is going to meet or serve the need of the customer in the best possible way. So is that the 20 features that you wrote is going to meet the need of the customer in the best possible way? The answer may be maybe not. And the reason for that is do the same development iteratively. and you deliver two things every iteration, reach the customer and find out what is their priority. Do they like it? They don't like it, and bake in their feedback into your software development, and then compare the list after 5 months. Even if you deliver 18 features, not 20, or say you deliver 20 features in 5 months iteratively by baking in the feedback of the customers, what you will realize, your original 20 list and this 20 list is very different. And this is very different because this is actually going to go and meet the need of the customer. The second one, the later one, is going to meet the need of the customer in much better way than your original 20 list. So this is called quality. So not just the defects, but also what kind of features, how you have developed, how you have baked in their feedback, the customer, how you have introduced innovation into that. So all those factors you have to take into consideration. Then you can say, yes, I have delivered a product that actually meets the need of the customer with minimum possible amount of coding. So that's how actually I describe quality.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And what you have mentioned is that uh, instead of just thinking about everything else without having the most important stakeholders in this product development, which is who is the customer, it is very important to reach to the customer and then ask whether whatever we have made is making sense or not. And then when he basically sees that, you may be able to make a lot of changes the way you have been working, and that may be the way to go actually. So in that context, I mean, I was thinking that so far our understanding has been that there are bugs, we need to fix it, and this is all about quality. So we need to think about test automation, and making sure that the internal code is working really good. And sometimes we may be thinking about the usability aspect as well, but again, most of the times it goes at the very late in the stage actually, when
Yeah,
we are really completed everything, then we think about, okay, let's do something about it. So we are trying to bring something, we are trying to think from other way around actually. Instead of starting uh, these aspects very late in the game, we are thinking other way around. So in your perspective actually, if we think about it, what all we should change, we should start thinking about what else we should change actually.
sure, absolutely. So I first I'll give an example when you talk about the bugs. So actually, in your one question, there are many questions. So I'll try to answer one by one.
Sorry
So
about that,
first,
sorry. Yeah, yeah.
so let's talk about the bugs first, and then we'll talk about like what are the things that you need to go and consider in the testing, and at the product stage, at the development stage. So I have a very interesting story to share, and that happened with me. That's why I said my experience is unique. So I was in one of those great companies, the largest software makers, and they hired a consulting company to fix a lot of defects they had in the system. And the assumption was they have like close to 4,000 defects, and these defects are creating the problem for the customer. So it's a very simplistic assumption. Like I have got 4,000 defects in the system. If I fix all the 4,000, my customer is going to be very happy. So they hired a consulting company. They gave an estimate like, okay, they're going to go and fix 20% of the defects in a year. And so the quality is going to be at least 20% better. And so they started fixing on a right note. After 6 months, they realized whatever they had in the contract, they could only fix like maybe 10% of that. They still have to meet the 90%. So they just picked anything in the list of 4,000, and they met their numbers. And at the end of the day, the customer was not at all happy. It's like nothing happened. Next year, I was given the same project, and I was told like, hey, this is your $1.5 million. This is your team, some 20 plus people. Go and fix it. So the first thing I did was I called my team and said like, hey, before we go and start working on it, spend your time to analyze all the defects. What are they? So what we realized that there are 4,000 defects that we have, close to that. Majority of them, a lot of them were 5 years and older. And in like P3, P4 statuses and SIF3, SIF4. So if something, so we made a rule, like anything which is 5 year and older and P3 and P4 statuses, just delete it. Don't even look at it. Just try to find out if there is nothing important lurking around there, but we just deleted it. So finally we came out with a list of around 1700 or 1800 defects. We did a further analysis and we kept doing it and finding out like where the system has changed and all those things. And finally, anything that looked older, which was not SEF2, SEF1 of course is going to go and fix very quickly, but SEF2s and some of those which was in Pi 2 and Pi 3, we came with a list of around 600 defects roughly, that we thought if we fix those 600 first, then there is going to be some quality. And what we did, we sent those 600 defects. This was a system that was used by the partners of the company, not by the company itself. So we sent it to the real customers who are using our system. And we asked them like, hey, is that the 600 that you want to get fixed? They said like, give us a week, we'll come back and tell you. So after a week, they all came back. They looked into each and every defect very diligently. And they came back with a list of defects. So we started compiling together. When we compile and try to match with our original list of 600, we realized that only 100 of them was common. And some 120 was added on top of that. So we asked them like, hey, why you have added those 120? We didn't give you that. But they, no, but those are the defects that's actually going to go and solve a problem, not the one from your list. So what we did, we took that 100 and added 120, 220, and we took like 3 iterations or 4 iterations, and we fixed everything, all 220 they had. And they were super happy. Then we thought like, this is just the first part, right? So we took the rest 500, which they have not prioritized, and send them again. They said like, nah, don't worry about it. And some of them we thought is very important from our perspective, but they said like, no. So we sent second reminder, third reminder. And after the fourth reminder, we said like, hey, after that, we're going to go and delete all these defects from the system. So this is your final chance. Do you want to take it? They said like, yeah, delete it. And when we deleted it, so literally after that, there was no customer complaint and everybody was working fine. And things was like, yes, you guys solved my problem. And it just took like, what, 2 months? So people were surprised, like what a big consulting company could not do in a year, how could do in 2 months? I said like, here is the perspective that we need to understand. The bug is not something that needs to be solved just because it's a bug. I was always looking from the customer angle, like what is the customer pain point? What can I do about the customer to solve their problem? So it's not about fixing the bug. It is about solving the customer problem. It is if it is coming in the way of the customer into day-to-day life or in all the critical activities they're doing, it's a defect. If it is not coming, I wouldn't call that a defect. Go to Facebook. You go to Facebook every day. The hundreds of defects, thousands, I guarantee. It doesn't come in your way, so you don't care, right? So if it comes in your way, then it's a defect. So that's one aspect of how you look at the defect. Always look, just because you get the defect, don't fix it. Look in the customer perspective. If it makes sense, fix it. Okay. Number 2, when you're talking about the product development, the first thing, the most important thing that should be in your mind is the art of maximizing the work not done. Means write the minimum amount of code to meet the customer need in the best possible way. That way you can go and bake the quality. If the same amount of, if the same feature you do with, I'll say maximum amount of code, then again, that's not a quality because you have already put in some technical debt, which is going to go and come back and haunt you someday in the future, right? So always look from the customer angle, start with the customer. When you start with the customer, the next most important thing is to look in a different way. I give another good example here. I was in Starbucks and 62% of a Starbucks customer at that time when I was working drink the same coffee, same time every day. Same coffee, same time every day. So they were creating a product called Usual so that the people will get prompted like, hey, you don't have to go and do 12 clicks or 15 clicks to go and order the coffee or whatever the number of clicks, I don't exactly remember. But you can just do a couple of clicks and you'll get your coffee, right? Something like that. So, and especially they were using Google Assistant, so they'll give you a recommendation like, hey, this is. So the logic they used was if you're drinking the same coffee three times in a week, that is the usual. Okay. They delivered, it works. A lot of people drink the same coffee same time every day, but is it a quality product? Let's ask this, even though it works. No, it's not. The reason it's not that because you have technology available, you have machine learning available. And if you do train your machine, if you do the development in the right way using the right technology, you can virtually give your users the right recommendation in every 3 hours. Like every 3 hours, this is your coffee that you like, right? It could be the same coffee, or not just the coffee. This is the other drinks that you like. This is the food that you purchase from that company that you like, right? So when you take the holistic need of the customer and develop in such a way that you are actually integrating the latest and greatest technology, not just doing something for the customer, that's how you bake in quality. So that's another second angle of the quality that you need to look at. Like always look like, have I leveraged my best possible? I call it innovation, quality innovation, call use of the best technologies available, but always try to go and take a look from such an angle. Like we are not just creating a product, we are creating the best, we are giving the best possible solution to the customer so that it meets the need of the customer in the best possible way. So I'll stop here with two because there's a third aspect which I'll answer. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go and ask about that. That is how we take care of quality during the development. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think just want to emphasize on one point over here is that with the conversation, it looks like it's not just important to give the solution to the customer. It is also to give the best possible solution to the customer. And when you start thinking about the best possible solution, then that's where the innovation starts coming into picture. So because you start thinking even beyond what has been thought so far, you are still obsessed about the customer problem and start thinking, okay, if we the customer so far has the options of having the horses, uh, why don't we think a car as a solution or something else actually? So that's where you start you was obsessed with the customer problem and try to make sure that you try to have the best possible solution. But at the same time, there is a catch over here is it has to be simple. Fine.
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be very complex, very technology savvy, and then again it's very heavy stuff. It has to be very simple. So
Yes.
it was a very important point actually to consider. So while looking at that, I was just thinking that you gave certain ideas about uh, how we should perceive the quality, how we should look at the quality. Now the question may be like, I mean, tomorrow I am working in my workplace again actually, and I may be having the same similar kind of software feature needs to be developed and all that stuff actually. Uh, that is one case. Another case may be that I want to create a new application from the scratch again actually, and not again, sorry, but I want to create a new application, and I want to start thinking, start putting these thoughts into the implementation of that application. So what should I change actually? Should I still continue to work the way I have been working so far, or should I make some changes on that? And in case there are changes, what are those changes actually?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. So when you go and I give you the recent example. I was working for a company, and when I went there, they have already been working on product for some years, and they're still not in production. And when they're working on the product, the way they started, they have a holistic picture of the product, like what they want to develop. Then they broke it down into components and all kinds of components, right? The database component, UI component, how many APIs you have to write, how many the test and learn you have to do to make sure that it's actually working. So what happened? That it started in a very nice way with the overall picture, but finally, when you broke it down, you broke it down in such a way that you get lost in that jumble of solving the technical problems.
Yeah.
And not just this, like there are many companies that do that way. So they start very nicely with overall a statement, but when we break it down, you break it down into your components, and then people get lost in
Yes,
that belly
absolutely.
of solving the technology problem.
Yeah.
So it doesn't remain a customer problem anymore.
Yeah.
Starts with a customer, and then it becomes a technical problem,
And
right?
also, I just want to add one point here is that customer no longer become the center anymore, right? I mean,
Yes, yes, exactly.
he may be contacted after some months or some
Exactly.
years or
So
whatever.
customer becomes like a side hero in the Indian movies. They become a side hero, and we'll take care of that later. Don't worry. First, and the main hero becomes technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the technology becomes main hero, then what happens is we go and try to focus so much on solving technical problems that the thing starts becoming complex and even more complex, and the complexity breeds more complexity. And then we finally say like, hey, the project is delayed, or we are not able to meet, or all kinds of problem we can think of, the quality problem starts seeping in. So the solution to that is whenever you get, I give an example. This is another good example. I was working for a company, and they were creating that automated dialer system that is going to go and call the dialer. And this is also applicable in this company and all the companies. But so when they're creating the dialer, the way they were working is they were trying to create a robust system that is going to replace the existing system. So the way the existing system was written, it has all the APIs, has all the databases, has all those components. They started mapping those out, creating a kind of a very big upfront architecture of that. And then they decided, okay, of this architecture, this is the component that we're going to go and focus. I said, like, you can keep writing this, and this is never going to work. So they were surprised why I'm giving such a strong statement that is never going to work. I said, like, you are creating a system which you don't even know the people are going to go and use it like it, right? So you can take 2 years to develop that system, and after 2 years, when you reach your customer, you realize, well, it has got a lot of defects. At least the customer doesn't want this way, they want something else, and by the time you change it, it's going to take another 6 months. So develop in such a way that it's very fractal, means all the time you're developing end to end. All the time. End to end is a very important concept in the software development. And why? Because this is going to go and create an end to end architecture right from the beginning. And once you have that, the simplest possible end to end architecture right from the beginning, your quality begins right there because you have integrated it. Most of the time, what we do, we develop components, we try to integrate it, and that's why you get a lot of defects. And we keep solving those defects, and ultimately your goal becomes just solving the defects and not meeting the customer need. So when you are actually creating a system which is end-to-end, in this case, what I told, like instead of creating that holistic system, which is going to take you 6 months, you just create a system for one customer in one state in one period of time. Can you do
Absolutely.
that? How long is it going to take? They say like, well, it's going to take us 2 weeks. So do it. So once they did it, they reached the customer, they got the feedback, and they realized it's not working. So they changed the timing, and then they realized that a certain timing is going to work better. Then there are a lot of state regulations where they have to take care of it. But they chose the time where there's a minimum hindrance, minimum possible limitations. And after that, they start increasing to more people, then to more states. So as they start getting feedback from the customer, the system also start getting complicated over the period of time, from simple system to the complex system. And once they start developing, they had a system that was working from the day one, and they got the feedback from the customer. The customer was integrated. So now they were developing a system that was very much tuned to the need of the customer versus the system they thought is going to go and work for the customer. So that way the quality was kind of baked in right from the beginning, not just in terms of meeting the need, but also in terms of architecture. Now they don't
Absolutely.
have to create a big upfront architecture. So that is a very important point, that whenever you're going to go for the software development, think in terms of integration end to end. So you can have like 20 components. So figure it out, like how we can go and deliver as many as possible a thinnest possible vertical slice so that I can meet the need of the customer. The reason is important to reach the customer so that you always know what is actually going to be used by the users, because you're creating a system for the customer. You're not creating a system for yourself, you know. And I know when you create a system that you are really excited about the new technologies and all that, and people go in a lot of details and they start talking about all that. But this is not your baby. This is the baby of the customer. The customer is going to go and use it. That's their bread and butter. So go reach them in an integrated way. Once you create an end-to-end integrated system, no matter whatever the skeleton kind of system that is, you actually have solved a lot of those integration problems upfront. So you have already baked in quality. And then if you have to go and iterate on that to make it, to refactor it, to changes further, go for it. But you always have a system that is working from the day one.
Absolutely.
You don't have a system that is going to work on the day 365, right? You know, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. So I will just stop here actually. Uh, what I'm thinking is that, and that has been discussed with Ashok as well, that we will first focus on the holistic part of the quality. Uh, and in the next session, we will be discussing about how to really implement it. So when we say that this is how we need to think, this is how we need to work, then in actual implementation, when it comes to user story, the acceptance criteria, even the different tests pyramid which we have actually, uh, and so how, I mean, how does it really changes the way we are going to work? So we are going to
Correct.
get into
So,
the,
so, so
yeah,
that is a very important point, and I'll just give you an overview, kind of a
yeah,
highlight. It's a very
sure,
detailed area that you talked about.
yeah,
So quality, when you start with, like I talked about, start with the customer, and when you know the customer need, you get a thinnest vertical slice, and then you start working. So it just end there. Then it also gets translated in your story, how you write your stories.
absolutely,
If your stories are not good enough, and we'll go into the detail in our next session, like how to do that, but the stories are super important, like how you translate the vision to your developers, right? So somebody has a vision, and that has to be translated through a story, through interactions to a developer. And when the developer gets it, how they